I'm going to be talking about how I passed the Civil PE, California Seismic, and Surveying exams. For the Surveying exam, I did my own self-study, and for the Seismic exam, I took a EET review course, which I'll go over, and I'll just be going over my experiences with both of those and which one I would recommend at the end. Hi, I'm Matt, and I'm a structural engineer in the Southern California area, and I passed the California PE Surveying and Seismic exam on my first try. Now, if you're specifically interested in the first portion of the PE exam, the 8-hour breadth and depth portion, I actually made a video on that too, so I'll link it up here somewhere. But for now, let's get on to the content. I'm first going to be going over the surveying exam and how I self-studied for that. I decided not to take a course for that, so I just thought I could just self-study for. So the things I relied on were books. The first book is by C.V. Chelapati. I think this book is not even in production anymore, but that's okay. I mean, I tabbed it up, but it wasn't that great of a book to help me out on the exam. The other main book that I used was titled Surveying for California Civil PE License. That was by Dr. Shaheen A. Mansour. I'll link it down below. You can probably find it on Amazon. And that was a pretty good book. It was better than the other one, and that's mainly the one that I used for reference, and it worked. It got me through the exam. After going through those books and those problems, then I practiced more. So I got my hands on a couple of problem-solving workbooks. The first one was Surveying Principles for Civil Engineers by Paul A. Cuomo, and the other one was 120 Solved Surveying Problems by Peter R. Boniface. And these were pretty effective, but just to help me get to speed. But I thought that basically they were too easy. The ones on the actual exam were a lot harder. So for me, I struggled with the speed on these. And out of all the tests, the PE exam, the 8-hour one, and the seismic, the surveying one was the toughest for me personally, just because it wasn't that the concepts were hard. I knew the concepts, but since it's a speed test, that's the thing that was really tripping me up. I knew the concepts, but when it came to the actual test and sitting down and getting through those, that was the toughest part for me. So what I always tell the structural engineers is, focus a lot on the surveying. For me, I should have studied a lot more and taken it more seriously. Like, I probably should have taken an actual course and got more books and studied more, and I kind of compacted my surveying study schedule in a couple weeks instead of at least a couple months. So on my part, the result was, after I got done with the exam, I just felt that I got half of the problems wrong for sure, and I'm pretty sure I barely passed, but it was kind of just like I may or may not have passed. If I wasn't going to get my license, it would be because of this test. Because if you're structural, you're already mostly familiar with all the seismic concepts. So I would have probably taken less time studying for the seismic and spent more time studying for the surveying exam, since if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail at that. But hey, self-studying worked. I wouldn't recommend it, at least for this one, just because the problems that I got my hands on were way too easy, and it gave me kind of fake confidence going into the test taking part, and I'm pretty sure I barely passed. Now I'm going to be talking about my experience taking the EET review course for the seismic exam. Now, I can't say enough about Ahmed Ibrahim. He's the instructor for this, and I basically have nothing bad to say about this review course, especially with him, the one that's being the instructor. I actually got recommended this course by a non-structural civil engineer, and he said he broke all the concepts down really well, even though it's more complicated topics like seismic analysis. But he really does do a great job of breaking everything down. Even for practicing structural engineers, I think it just reinforces the concepts and lets you look at the concepts in a new perspective. So that was definitely helpful. So when you sign up for this course, what you're gonna get is you're gonna get this textbook written by them, the authors and the instructors, and that basically has all the problems and all the texts that you need to do. So you're basically gonna do all the problems here and read this, and as you're taking the online class with him, again, they have replays and you can always rewatch, but you can just keep going through that, and he basically goes through this book and walks you through everything. The other thing that you get when you sign up for the course is 3 practice exams. In terms of difficulty, I'd say, in terms of realism to the actual test, I'd say these are probably in the range of 8 to 9 out of 10. So they're very realistic. I think the difficulty is pretty much right on par. How you do on these practice exams are pretty much how you're going to be doing in the actual test. And I think one of the best things that you get when you sign up for the course is they give you basically cheat sheets. And I was surprised. So besides taking all those books that I took with me to the Seismic exam, I ended up using basically this amount just because all the essential concepts were in these cheat sheets. And look, it's one-sided. It's not even double-sided. So all the main information that I needed to know was on this. And I think this cheat sheet just paid for itself just because I could have just taken this binder and passed the exam. And towards the end of the class, we'll have our practice exam session. So we'll take the practice test and he'll go over it with us. But what was really cool is that he would actually give us test taking strategies, which were very helpful during the exam, especially since this was a speed exam. So that's the main thing between the surveying seismic versus the typical PE exam. For the PE exam, you typically have time to go back and look over your problems, but for the surveying and seismic, you're very crunched on time. So even though if you know it, if you can't do it fast enough, it's gonna hurt you. So test taking strategies were essential, and he gave us a lot of those. A lot of those were very valuable and very realistic. So I think his strategies were spot on, and the questions that he gave us, it really over-prepared us. So when I took that exam, I'm pretty much 100% sure that I passed it on my first go. But again, you have to put in the work. He makes you do a lot of problems, a lot of, I don't know how many practice tests we took. I was pretty much sick and tired of them by the end of it. I think I was up to 4 or 5 practice tests, taking it real time. So definitely over-prepared, but in the end, knowing that I passed was definitely worth it. So to recap, if you're a structural engineer, I highly recommend putting more effort into the surveying exam. Maybe take a course, maybe get some more resources. I barely got by, but it works. I mean, if you want to take that chance, go ahead and just self-study, but I'd highly recommend getting more resources and practicing a lot more for the surveying, especially since you're already familiar with some of the seismic principles. And if you are structural, again, I'd highly recommend the EET seismic course with Ahmed. And even if you're non-structural, I think it's even more important that you take it with Ahmed. I don't think there's a better person that can teach you those principles than Ahmed. And I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, this was my experience. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. So this is all coming from me, and I just had a good experience with them and their instructors, and they definitely helped me pass. Thanks again for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.